Hey everybody, this is Dave here at Pulp Alley, and we're wrapping up a terrain project today. I'm calling it good enough right now. There are a few things that I kind of wish I'd have gone back and done. Maybe I'll get around to those eventually, but right now I'm just saying good enough is good enough, and they're good enough to get on the table and start playing with them. So this is the terrain project that we have been working on. You see these kind of standing stone sort of pieces here. And so there's a whole nother video about how we put these together. So if you're wondering about how we built these, what we used, and that sort of thing, then I'll put a link down below about how to make them. So this last video, or the second video here, is really just about the painting, putting a little extra detail work into them and things like that. So that's what this is about. So I don't know how many of you really are familiar with the idea or the concept of dry brushing. It's a pretty basic, painting technique. But just in case you're not really familiar with it, my suggestion is use a big old brush. Use a nice big old brush, something that you don't mind beating around a little bit. That's, one tip. And also to, when you're testing your paint, you're going to load up a little bit of paint on your brush, and then you're going to wipe it off. And then look at where you're wiping it and get an idea about how hard you want to press, and then start going at it. So my rule of dry brushing is to always start with a very light touch and then work harder as I want more pigment or more paint on there. I can always add more, right? If the first couple strokes I see, oh, well, it's not very heavy, and I can go, okay, now I can push a little bit harder and get a little bit more paint on there. But if my first stroke is just this big smear of paint, then it's basically like starting over. In other words, you can always add more paint, but it's a lot harder to take it off. So always start with a light touch, and then you can kind of adjust from there and push harder if you need to. I started with a black model. That's what I started with, was black. And I actually spray painted them black, and then I went back with some black paint and kind of touched up to fill up any little gaps or any little spots that I missed with the spray paint, because I wanted the black to be pretty consistent all over it. So then I did a dry brush of this on top of the black. So I was really looking to kind of push it. I wanted a little bit of color in there, so that's why I went with kind of this bluish gray rather than just a gray. But then on top of that, I did go to a gray. So after I did that, then I did a gray, then I did a lighter gray, and then finally I did this kind of creamy color. Now, each step in this, I keep getting lighter and lighter in the color, and I'm also trying to put less pigment on. Let me see. Now, there was something else I was wanting to tell you about. Oh, yeah. I don't clean my brush. I do not clean my brush in between these steps. Also, I do all of them basically at the same time. Like, I'm going to sit down and do these. I'm not going to sit down and do, one of them and then go and do the next one and the next one. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do all of them with the dark blue, and I'm going to splash that on all 6 of the pieces. And then, I go to that gray and I knock that out on all of the pieces. One of the ways that helps you is that it really keeps the pieces all very consistent. Maybe that's not what you want, but for me, that was what I wanted. So I wanted to do all of these pieces at the same time, so they would have a very, very similar, almost uniform sort of feel, because they're all rocks or standing stones in the same general area. So it makes sense that they would be very consistent as far as their coloring on them. All right, so I'll show you a little video here about dry brushing for those of you that may not be familiar, and I kind of regret not doing a little bit more video on this one, but you'll get the idea when you see me brushing this paint on. So take a look at this. let's see, there's only a couple minutes of this, but I wanted to show you. And I do the entire piece. I did the base with the exact same colors, and then I did the standing stone as well. So all of it is getting this this dry brushing on it. You get a nice view of my hand, but there you go. You can kind of see. If anything, you can see the technique. You can see that it's not a difficult process. You're just dragging the brush across it. You're letting the piece really come alive because you're just catching some of that detail. And then here's another one. This looks like it's still just a straight black piece. So I'm gonna put some of that dark midnight blue on here. Again, you see it coming to life now. And then the next color that we're going to put on there is a gray, and then an even lighter gray, and on and on. And there I am doing some of the bottom base there. It's not a difficult process. It's a very pretty much basic painting technique. Each time I switch to a lighter shade, then I am not only am I switching to a lighter shade, but my brushing technique is a little bit lighter because I'm not wanting to cover everything up that I just put on there. I'm wanting to keep some of that and just catch some of the edges. So I'm going to show you again the models here, so you can see some of the detail in there. And then we added these tufts, have a nice little skull here. I went back with a little bit of cream color and kind of picked out some of the detail on there. On this one, on this particular piece, there's a little bit of a cave here. Can you see that? Can you see that it actually goes down to the tabletop? So there's a little bit of a space back underneath there. So that would be nice for a little plot point, or maybe a monster comes out of there or something like that. So look at that nice color on that rock there. And then throwing these little tufts, and you can find these amongst your model railroading. They're also very, very popular amongst miniatures painters as well. Very cool. So you can get these from like Woodland Scenic and on and on. Their Army Painter has them. I'm sure Games Workshop has them too. So that's another piece of the tree bark just laid down up here. You know, those pieces. And I could see using these not only for, you know, the tundra area that I'm wanting to do, but also I could see using these in a sci-fi setting as well. So again, once again, I have a skull here, kind of brought it out with some brighter colors, and you can kind of see this. I only put one tuft on that side, and then I went a little bit crazy on this side and put a bunch of tufts over there. Now, I really thought about doing like some sort of wash on this and kind of dirtying it up a little bit more. I did go back and throw some brown ink in just a few spots just to give it some real world randomness of just, you know, some different coloring in there. There's a skull down here again, and then little tufts around there and there and there. And, you know, it's just, you can't really tell you how to do that. It's just, you put them where you think it looks good. I also, when I'm putting them down, I'm thinking about where I'm going to place miniatures. So although you could see, you know, there are pieces up here, what I didn't do was stick them up here where they're in the middle of the area where I'm most likely going to place figures. Even down here, if I want to put a figure here, I don't want a tuft in the way, or a skull or whatever in the way of where I'm going to place something. So think about that, you know, so the tufts are a little bit kind of out of the way, but still looking kind of cool in there. And here's the next piece. Check that out. So a tuft there, and if you can see back in there, yeah, you can see the tuft that's back in there, back in the little covered area. Got two more here I wanted to show you. So there's the skull back there in between the stone. Couple little tufts there. Now again, if you want to see how this was made and how it was put together, there's a whole nother video. So check the link down below. There's another skull there. tufts there. And this is the last one here I'm going to show you. So another skull there, several little tufts scattered around. You know, you want kind of a randomness to the tufts. You don't want it to make it look like it's somebody's garden. You want it to feel kind of real world randomness to it. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Make sure you get subscribed to our little channel. Hit that like button. Make sure you hit that bell button so you get a notification when we upload a new video. And that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.